Test, test, test. Okay, we should be streaming
All right,
momentarily.
great. Are we good to go? All right. It now being 5:15, the Board of Town Commissioners work session for February the 13th, 2024 is now in session. Mr. Krantz, could you call the roll just so we can tell everyone who's here?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We'll start just by going around the room and introducing ourselves by name and title. My name is Michael Krantz, Director of Administration.
Jane Sudbrink, Recording Secretary.
Mary Chance, Town Commissioner.
Jake Taylor, Town Commissioner.
Paula Edding, Chair.
Steve Chismore, Town Commissioner.
Jim Rutledge, Town Commissioner.
Eddie Hopkins, Town Administrator.
Elizabeth Thompson, Town Council.
Kevin Small, Director of Planning.
Lisa Moody, Director of Finance.
Angela Robertson, Director of Economic Development.
Stephen Klein, Director of Public Works.
Chuck Moore, Chief of the Police Department.
Thank you. Now that we're all here, first on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And I have an amendment to make. If we could add under miscellaneous discussion of a request that I received from the Bel Air Volunteer Fire Company. I haven't had a chance to bring it up. I just figured I'd bring it up in this open discussion while we're here, since I just got it about an hour or two ago. But discussion of the Bel Air Volunteer Fire
All right.
Company.
Do we have a second for that amendment? Not sure we can do that.
Second.
Okay.
Okay. Can I make it under Commissioner's comments? Sure. Okay. Yeah. I just want to bring that.
All right. So we have approval of the agenda, and did we have a second for that?
I second it.
All right. And Mr. Krantz, if you could call the vote.
Yes, vote to approve the agenda. Commissioner Rutledge,
Aye.
Commissioner Chismore,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Commissioner Chance,
Aye.
and Chair Edding.
Aye.
The agenda is approved.
First on our agenda this evening is a presentation by the Bel Air Downtown Alliance.
I'll
Madam-
need just a moment to bring the screen down.
Madam Chair, if I may, while Jenny's coming up, this was part of the series of presentations I've offered up for the commissioners just to give an overview of the Alliance, far better than I could have done in orientation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I've been very excited to come and talk with you all. I know that some of you we've met, but my name is Jenny Earhart, and I'm the Executive Director of the Bel Air Downtown Alliance. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you have a very busy schedule, but I have a brief PowerPoint presentation to talk about the Alliance, the importance of the relationship between the town of Bel Air and the Bel Air Downtown Alliance. So to give you a little bit of background, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We were established in 2001, and our mission is to, we're a community development organization whose mission is to mobilize stakeholders to invest in Bel Air's neighborhoods, economy, and quality of life. I do not have an extendable arm, so. I have a cheat sheet. I get to look behind you, and
That's good. That's good.
I'm happy to provide this to you as well if you'd like to take a closer look. But here's a couple stats about downtown Bel Air and then Bel Air proper as a whole. You all probably know most of this information, but you can see the map there shows the downtown district. And that is something that has been established through the Department of Housing and Community Development with the state of Maryland. Within the downtown corridor, you can see all of our stats of what businesses we have currently.
You know, you might be able to use this mic.
So get into the meat and potatoes of things.
I don't know that it's on. Just touch the button. There you go. There you
Okay,
go.
all right. Thanks. So the town of Bel Air originally, over 23 years ago, applied to be a downtown designation through the state of Maryland. There's paperwork and different guidelines that you have to follow in order to be a official designated Main Street through not just the state of Maryland, but also the nationwide Main Street program. So the town itself holds that designation, and the Alliance was created to do the work of that designation. So you can see we have a public-private partnership with the town of Bel Air, the Alliance being the private sector and the town being the public entity. So at its infancy, the Bel Air Downtown Task Force was established to oversee development of the downtown market study. This process helped to identify business types and locations that are successful in Bel Air from 99 to 01 under the direction of the Bel Air, the Town of Bel Air Planning Director. It has evolved into the Bel Air Downtown Revitalization Alliance, then being amended to the Bel Air Downtown Alliance. I'm sorry, Mike, I stole your seat.
That's okay.
And on May 14th, 2001, the Bel Air Downtown Alliance officially became a 501c3 nonprofit. Now, the Bel Air Downtown Alliance and the Town of Bel Air hold a symbiotic relationship. Neither entity can do exactly what the other can, so together we're able to do a lot of great work. In the last 3 years, through partnership groups such as Keep Maryland Beautiful, the State of Maryland's Department of Housing and Community Development, the Drescher Foundation, American Water and Charitable Foundation, as well as a very close relationship with the Town of Bel Air's Economic Development Office, the Bel Air Downtown Alliance has been able to give over $175,000 to the Town of Bel Air. And you can see all of that detailed there. Those numbers do not include the funding that we've been able to give to our downtown businesses, which is nearly $400,000. A large chunk of that was a COVID relief fund that we got through the state of Maryland. So we've been very happy to partner with the town to make downtown Bel Air great. This is a brief overview of what we accomplished in 2023, and I'm happy to provide digital copies, and I also have physical copies of these if you would like to see them closely. It talks about everything we do, from events to programs to grant funding. That is something that we produce every year to show not only our stakeholders but also our membership everything that we are able to accomplish year after year. We host over 40 events a year in the downtown corridor. The video here highlights our newest and most elevated event called Dunnigan's, Dunnigan's is the name of an actual speakeasy that existed in Bel Air in the Prohibition era. This was a immersive event that was a speakeasy and like a funny money gambling type event. We sold 160 tickets, which for a first year event, we were very happy with that turnout. This year, we anticipate completely selling out at 300 tickets. It highlights not only some of our downtown businesses, but also a lot of artisans in the area, including a local dance group. Our largest event that we're well known for is the Maryland State Barbecue Bash, which draws over 40,000 people into Bel Air in 2 days. Some of the initiatives that we're currently working on, you can see here. We're currently partnering with the town for the 150 celebration. The Alliance managed the banner program, which are currently on the light poles in our downtown district. Some of the other projects that I'm very excited about is we're trying to build up a Bel Air Pride swag page. So we have currently our 150 celebration t-shirts on sale, as well as Barbecue Bash, but we foresee that building over the next few years. We want Bel Air to show off their pride. We want people to be able to wear their Bel Air swag out into the community when they're traveling and then and beyond. Oh, actually, I want to go back because there's one other thing I want to highlight. The Bel Air Downtown Alliance hosted 2 cleanup days in 2023. In the fall, our cleanup day, we had over 175 volunteers come out, and we picked up nearly 500 pounds of trash in the downtown district. So that was an incredible initiative, not just by the Alliance, but by community volunteers. Some of the challenges that we're facing currently as we go into 2024, we want to collaborate more with the Division of Homeless Solutions and the department through the state to better support our homeless population. So whether that means finding them resources or making sure that we work with the chief to keep our homeless population at a minimum, that we're working closely with that department through the state of Maryland. We're also exploring new ways to motivate our current property owners to renovate and lease vacant properties. We're also looking to partner closely with the Elderly and Needy Citizens Committee. I know that that name is getting changed soon, but we're looking to improve inclusivity in downtown. So that is not just possibly looking for more ways for people who are possibly homebound to be a part of the events and programs that we have in the downtown corridor, but we're also looking to help people who maybe have trouble walking around. Specifically, the Chocolate Brew and Wine Tour, which is going to be hosted on March 2nd, we are incorporating a trolley service that day for not just event goers, but also people who are just traveling and enjoying the downtown district. This is kind of a trial run to see if this is something that the community likes. If it is, we'd like to start discussions on, is this a service that we could utilize in downtown during the summer months when people are actually walking from one end of the district to the other, and how can we get people who have trouble getting around from Independent Brewing to Looney's and all over. We're also looking to increase tourism engagement through better visual marketing. And if I have time, I have a 2-minute video at the end of this presentation to show some of that visual marketing that we've put together at the end of last year. And we also want to improve walkability throughout all of downtown. So that's not just the trail, but all through Main and Bond Street as well. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, but the lasting impression I want to leave you is that the Bel Air Downtown Alliance, while we're a nonprofit, the work that we do with a very small staff, I am one of 3, and without the healthy relationship between the Alliance and the town, the work that we do would not be able to happen. So we are very grateful for all the support and good communication that the town department heads give us, and we're excited to be working with you all. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment. You're doing a great job. I'm so excited about the trolley, looking at having the town be more available for people who won't be able to walk through town. I know that committee's name is going to change, and I'm excited about that because it speaks to what we're really looking for. So kudos to the Alliance on all that you do, and we are lucky as a town to have you as part of us.
Thank you.
Hi, Jenny Steve Chismar. The Dunnigan's event, when is that?
So that is a ticketed event that we host in the Armory. It features, when we built that, we were retiring another well-loved event called Roll Out the Barrel, which is a bourbon tasting event. When we host an event, we feel that we have to have a very strong hold over every aspect of an event. And Roll Out the Barrel, there were parts of it that were, let's just say, out of our control to an uncomfortable level. So we took the elements of that event that we really loved, and we wanted to highlight the history of Bel Air and still have an event where people can dress up. They can come listen to good music. So we have I think 7-piece band for that event. We have, in 2023, we had the local cater it. There was 5 different types of casino games where people could come and play with funny money, because
Right.
I'm not trying to get a gambling license. That sounds complicated. It was open bar, and we also had, for every attendee, everyone could come and get a free cigar, so there was a cigar bar outside as well. So it's just a way, much like the library gala does, we want a place where people can come and have a good time, have an excuse to dress up. And the time frame is such that we want people to come and eat dinner in downtown and then go to the event, because we're serving heavy hors d'oeuvres, but not a full dinner.
So, I mean, what time, what part of the year do you do this?
It's in September this year. I
Usually in
want to say
September?
it's September 21st. Don't quote me on that, I'd have to double check, but it's mid to late September,
Okay.
and the time frame is 6 PM to 10 PM.
Okay, because I was wondering, I missed that event this year, so anyway.
I think what you're hearing is Commissioner
He's gonna mark
Kismore
his
wants to mark his
calendar,
calendar.
Right, I want to mark
it a
my
Saturday?
calendar.
Absolutely, you won't want to miss it.
That's right. And then, do you interact much with the Army Alliance?
The Army Alliance?
Yeah.
No, I don't, but I did hear that they recently are doing, they either have or are going to be doing a presentation, and I
They
think that a
did,
lot of
right.
what we do overlaps, so I'd like to reach out to them and see how we can help one another.
Right, just to help, because there's a lot of jobs that come to APG. We don't have a lot probably in town, in Bel
Mhm.
Air, but, there's a lot of consultants and things that work at APG or for the organizations at APG, which could, office space. So it's just, keep that in mind. I know we talked about that before when the Army Alliance was here.
Mhm.
But, we could get a presence of some high tech in the community. That'd be great, because a lot of people that work at APG live here.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
Do I have time to show that promotional video, or I can move on?
No, I'd like to see it.
All right. So the quick intro to this is we had 2 videographers come out. One focused on the summertime, the warmer months, and then this video focused on the cooler months, because we want to have footage of downtown Bel Air to showcase throughout the year. So we can change this on our website. We can push this out to, a lot of the promotion we do is non-skippable ads on streaming services. So this is one of those videos that we can piecemeal to make a 30-second video to make into shorter promotions. But this is something that they put together. Thank you all for your time.
Very nice. Thank you.
Could I just ask one question, Jenny?
Sure.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. It's a fantastic video, great presentation, marvelous organization, just love it. Do you have a YouTube channel?
We do utilize YouTube to upload the videos
Yeah.
that we put on our social media and our website pages. I am very minimal tech. Thankfully, I have a marketing and communications associate who's very good at that. But my understanding is when you are using a video online, it's easier and smoother for people to view it when you upload it to YouTube first.
Yeah, there's a number of small towns, that across America have a YouTube channel, and people like just Googling, Maryland or whatever, and then they've got it like their metrics set up so their small town pops up,
Yes.
and then people can, watch a video and.
I think that if you do go online and Google downtown Bel Air, that a lot of our videos do show up under videos.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for letting me use your chair.
Thank you. Next on our list is the Town Administrator's Report. Mr. Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, rather. Well, I know we have a very robust agenda, so just had a couple of really quick announcements. First off, thank you to Jenny. I appreciate the presentation and interesting. She and I had a conversation, talk about timing, Commissioner Chismore. She and I had a conversation about the Alliance and its connectivity to the town because of a follow-up to an inquiry you all had made when the Alliance was here, which was to find a way to engage with them, which we have. And my Economic Development Director Robertson has spoken with the Alliance. Actually, we've connected with them by email and in-person conversations about vendor and business opportunities on Main Street and ways to facilitate that. And of course, Jenny and her team is a part of that process as well, or will be. So this is a good segue into my talking point. For the Commissioner's benefit, as you all know, I know that Director Moody has brought this up, but we are beginning into the throes of the FY25 budget. If any of the Commissioners have a project specific to the budget that you want to bring to our attention for us to put on the budget, research, evaluate, try to find a way to fund it, or whatever you would possibly need in that regard, please let us know at your earliest convenience, and we can begin looking at that. The webpage, Mike and specifically Mike and David Anderson, have been working on the webpage, a redo, if you will, trying to rebuild it, reinvigorate it, re-energize it. Certainly would welcome any comments from the Commissioners in terms of what your thoughts are. A lot of what you have told us privately, we've begun to start to incorporate it. We've seen some obvious things on the page that need to be fixed, but if you see something specific that you want or done differently, please feel free to let Mike, myself, or David Anderson know. And then last but not least, as another follow-up to an earlier inquiry, later in our agenda, you will see that we'll be discussing the open dining resolution. We wanted to, and I followed up and did speak with Mr. Rudy and Mr. O'Neill from Independent Brew, as you offered, and as Mr. Small and I met with him several weeks ago. So we've invited them to be here. So as this is discussed tonight, that they could take questions from the dais if you're so interested in the direction of their project and anything that might be related to this ordinance or other questions that you had that night that I couldn't answer for you. So they're in the audience for your availability. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll pass back to you.
All right, next on our agenda is the new business for our next meeting, which will be Resolution 1220-24 regarding Governor Moore's Housing Expansion and Affordability Act, which is Senate Bill 484 and House Bill 538. So I'm going to pass these to my right so that everyone has a draft to look at. These are, this is truly here for discussion and suggestions. And one of the first things we need to decide whether we'd like to do a resolution, authorizing a letter that's approved by the board to be sent, or whether we want to do it merely by way of a resolution. I kind of tend to think that the resolution is a little formal for making the points that we want to make, and that a letter might be a little bit more conversational. So the bullet points are, I have read the Senate Bill 484, and the biggest sticking point for me would be that adequate public facilities is not to be considered at all when you're reviewing one of these types of projects, which means no water, no sewer, no schools. I can see how somebody might think that maybe with traffic, people just have to, sit through the lights, but I see the water, sewer, and the schools in a completely different category. Another thing that I think would be helpful is to give real-life examples, if we can think of any, of where this would be a problem for us particularly in the development process. I know that we are a small town. We are somewhat older, somewhat poorer, and way more densely populated than the county as a whole or the state even. We're about 60-40 owner-occupied versus rental. We're largely built out, so there's really not a lot of space. So I think the only place for people to go would be to infill lots or to actually take down some of the older homes in single-family neighborhoods and put up something else. And I really think that would be very detrimental to the character of our town. Providing affordable housing to residents is an admirable goal, but I think you need to keep in mind the very real restrictions that there are as far as water and sewer capacity, school capacity, and how difficult it would be to plan anything if you can't count on your density that is in your plan as what it's going to be. So those are some of the things that I have sort of put together as bullet points, but I'm certainly interested in, anything that anyone else can add as far as pluses or minuses. And of course, you're just reading this, so that's, take a few minutes. Another thing, Mr. Small, the proposed effective date, I believe, is October 1st, 2024. Would we be sort of under the gun to rush to get changes made by that date to comply with this new act if it's passed? And I expect it to be heavily amended, so we're just working with the current draft. I haven't seen any amendments yet, but I do expect them.
Right, and that was what I was kind of waiting for those amendments. I don't know how fast that happens in terms of the legislative process.
Good question. I mean, it could go up until the end of the legislative session, or it could happen tomorrow in the well, not tomorrow, but very quickly, and the bills could be passed. They're set for hearings on the 20th and the 22nd of this month.
I can provide applications later this week if you like.
Okay.
That's possible. That's one that sticks out in my mind is the current district toward.
Mm-hmm.
I can say as far as amendments are concerned, there really won't be an idea until the hearing has been had, because a lot of times amendments are informed by the opposing and favorable with amendment testimony that's submitted. And at that point, it's then up to the committee chair to decide when to put it on a voting list for the committees to tinker around with it. And it's really in the parameter of the committees to provide whatever amendments will be made. My guess is that once the committees have made their amendments, that's going to be the final version. Very rarely will you see a floor amendment unless it's some sort of emergency. Most of this stuff is worked out at the committee level to prevent sort of what is viewed as a public embarrassment if something has to be changed on the floor. Is a little bit more in front of everybody than if something has to be changed in committee. So we won't probably know for a few more weeks what the direction that it's heading in its final posture.
And any thoughts, since you have more experience at this, on how to proceed? And certainly we'll be sending it to MML. I have been in contact with them. They are supporting with amendments, and I think they are certainly aware of the types of problems that this can pose for a local jurisdiction, particularly with the adequate public facilities section and the density section. But I wanted to give them something in writing so that they would have some actual points to look at, things that would be real-life examples for us or where it would be a problem.
One question about this particular piece of legislation, I don't know if the town council's had a chance to read it. If not, disregard. But I know that it's specific in terms of the land that these provisions apply.
Correct.
And I don't know how much of Bel Air is affected by that. So maybe getting a sense of that would be informative in terms of what we choose to say.
So the only thing that myself and the Director of Planning could identify as a potential project where this potential legislation might come into play is the District Court of Maryland building.
Right.
So surplus state property that's subsequently sold to a developer. We don't know what's going to happen with that huge parcel of land. I know part of the parking lot is owned by the county, and the other part where the actual building is owned by the state. So if they surplus it, that is the only parcel that we can think of that would be impacted by the new legislation. We don't have a metro station that's anywhere near, and I can't remember the other one.
The other one is actually property owned by nonprofits.
Nonprofits.
So
Correct.
that would also affect us if a nonprofit purchased something and wanted to do this kind of a development that would qualify.
Yeah, there was a reason why I didn't think that qualified. And I'm trying to think why. It might have been was there a size of a parcel that was relevant into that?
I don't think this bill has any sizes.
Okay, there was some reason why we were like, that doesn't apply to us.
Because I read it and it seemed to apply to us. Was there?
If I could add, this was, Madam Chair, this is the one issue that I think is really the most dangerous aspect of the bill is the fact that Section 7-505, each one of these defines what they call a qualified project, and in 7-504, the qualified project is a project that's owned by a nonprofit organization. It's not limited to whether it's state property, it's not limited to whether it's close to a rail system whatsoever. And in that instance, I've read through it pretty carefully on this particular point. And the way I'm looking at this is I'm kind of surprised that like Haverty Grace's bill or whatever didn't address the specifics of that. And on your list here, 7-504 isn't there, but the impact of it would be that if a nonprofit 501c3 construction company formed and then started to acquire property in the single-family districts, then they get an automatic right to build what they call the middle housing, okay? So what we're dealing with here says, in an area zoned exclusively for single-family residential use, a qualified project may include middle housing units. And that's the quadruplex, the triplex, the duplex, that is also townhouses.
As well as the cottage
As well as
housing
this
that they
cottage housing,
defined.
which to me is one of the most bizarre aspects of the rule, because they're saying that if someone built this, and of course the project has to be at least 50% dedicated, to affordable housing dwelling units. And what I found to be surprising was that the definition says, well, if you're going to build affordable housing units for people that can't otherwise afford, and so fine, that's a great goal. But that cottage can't be bigger than 900 square feet.
That was what surprised me too. And there must be,
by definition.
and there must be at least 4 of them.
So
There could be more, but and they can
that
only-
is so reminiscent of so many poverty-stricken areas throughout rural America, where historically just small shotgun shack kind of communities is where the people who had less opportunity got stuck generationally. Now, if you add the overlay that this could happen anywhere where a nonprofit 501c3 corporation were going to operate, that is a very, very broad statute. I've taken a look at the IRS regulations on it. I'm looking at them right now about the definition. Anything that is going to lessen neighborhood tensions, that's going to eliminate prejudice or discrimination, defending human and civil rights, whether housing is falling into that category, combating community deterioration. Obviously, it's contemplated by the sponsor of this bill that there would be private corporations that qualified under 501c3, and then they could acquire properties, and the dense zoning is automatic. It's just automatic, nothing the town or the community can do about it. There's nothing to do, I understand the criticisms about the adequate public facilities. This has nothing to do with that. This just has to do with a blanket statement that if it's zoning for single-family dwellings, the overlay by state law is completely automatic. And so I want to just briefly quote from the National Council of Nonprofits. It's a big organization, well established, and it says, myths about nonprofits. Here's the myths about a nonprofit. Nonprofits can't earn a profit. Reality, oh, absolutely they can. They can reinvest, they can pay their staff and, CEOs or whatever, competitive corporate salaries. They don't have stockholders that they pass on profits to. That's the difference. They can't privately inure. But some nonprofits have been very, very, very successful, can own a tremendous amount. Nonprofits have low overhead costs. It says, no, that's a myth. A lot of nonprofits have very, very large infrastructures. Nonprofits don't have paid staff. Oh, yes, they do. That's a Johns Hopkins Center for Civil Society Studies stated that in 2016, nonprofits employed 12.3 million people. That's 10% of the private employment in the United States. So I think that's a really big, I think that from what I've seen, what the other communities and municipalities are raising could potentially be missing the big boat here. The big boat being, nonprofits. And nonprofits don't have to be approved by the state of Maryland, not regulated in that way. You create them. Law firms and CPA firms collaborate to do this all the time. And so that's a huge exception. And so as I read through it, there weren't any restrictions or takeaways on that. Has nothing to do with the other provisions of what are qualified projects. So the unique thing is they use this term qualified project, but they use a defined term per code section. Not the whole article, but per code section. So you have to look at it very carefully. So I think that's a really big gaping hole that a lot of damage could be done to neighborhoods where people have bought homes, invested in them on the reliance of what the neighborhood was like, and this could be, there could be certainly a lot of incentive for organizations to form and to start to acquire property.
That was my concern. When I read 7504, that was the one that I thought would impact us the most. The district court building, I think didn't they have to be 50 years old, the state building?
That was for state-owned historic.
State-owned historic, okay. So we got the one building there, but my concern is a neighborhood like Howard Park, where houses are pretty reasonably priced, and somebody might want to go in and take down a couple, put something else up that was, more financially rewarding, and I think that would do terrible damage to a neighborhood like Howard Park, which is a, community that's been here for years and years, and it's, a lot of good people live there, worked hard to get their homes, and they moved into a single-family neighborhood, and they expected to stay that way. So I'm hearing, Commissioner Rutledge, that we should discuss something about the nonprofits.
Yeah, I do. I think that it potentially is endless of the possibilities.
I agree with you.
I-
That had not occurred to me when I read this, but you make a very good point.
Yeah, they're not limiting it to some type of organization that's a specially created, branch, quasi-branch of
Like
the.
some sort of a housing
That's
authority.
right.
that
It's not limited to a housing authority, whatsoever. And I mean, part of me, just from a free enterprise standpoint, thinks, what a fabulous opportunity, for people to, form a corporation, acquire some property, and there's maybe a lot of good that can come out of it for people who can't afford properties, and at the same time, it could be a great business opportunity for people that wanted to start the 501c3. So I can see, but is that the intent of the bill? That's really, I think, the question for Annapolis is, do they intend to just, create this opportunity? Because in my experience, often the policy coming out of Annapolis is not trying to energize the free market to just take off and do what the free market does, but they're typically interested in restraining the free market. So I wonder what the purpose is and how that particular thing fits into it.
I think they probably are well-intentioned, but maybe haven't thought it all the way through to the end conclusion that you've mentioned here. And the reason I had done 7505 was because this is these sections apply to everything, that there is no adequate public facilities consideration for these projects, which if it's a traffic light and people sit through 10 of them, it's one thing. But water and sewer is not really something that you can ignore. It's a health and safety issue. Crowded schools lie somewhere in between, but I really would not want to see no restraint whatsoever on how many children you can produce out of a development for a school that's already crowded. I mean, at some point you have to say, we have no more room. And it's very difficult for kids in school to concentrate in overcrowded classrooms. Teachers can't really pay that extra attention that, the more struggling students need. I'm not sure if they've really thought that out. I think they've just thought about, like, let's develop housing and take away all of the impediments that there could be without considering what the negative implications could be. So I would ask everyone to, read this in somewhat more detail. Think about it. Give me whatever your thoughts are. I will work on adding a section about the nonprofits. I think that's an excellent point and one that I had forgotten until you mentioned it. I remember a few years ago there was a dust up about some nonprofit who was paying their CEO, millions of dollars, and very little was going out to actually do the Good Works project. So that does happen, and there's really no way to prevent that. It's the choice of the nonprofit and your determination when you're donating money to a group. So anybody else have any suggestions, thoughts?
No, I just would like to say, I think we need to be very careful when we talk about nonprofits in a generic way, that we have wonderful nonprofits in this county doing wonderful things on very tight budgets and doing the best job they can. So I think using the word nonprofit and then looking at, this terrible thing could happen and somebody could be making millions of dollars as the executive director, that's not happening here, and we need to be careful about how we talk about it.
I agree with you. It is not happening here, and certainly none of our nonprofits would ever behave in that way. They're doing great works on a shoestring.
They are,
Yep.
and we have to be really sensitive to that. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else on this particular topic?
I just agree with Commissioner Chance on that, and that's one of the things I'm wondering why they chose that language in the bill, because most people's impression of the nonprofits are the excellent organizations that are out there that have absolutely no malintent whatsoever, and I'm just wondering why they chose that for the state legislation and then tied it to a 501c3, which, because as far as I know, the only housing 501c entity that's operating in Hartford County is Habitat for Humanity.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
It's not,
There
as far
are
as
many,
building,
many nonprofits housing people, homeless people, people with addictions, many nonprofits.
No, I'm talking about building and selling houses. Habitat
Oh,
builds
building
and
and
sells
I
houses.
hear what you're saying. Okay.
Okay, so
Right
that,
about that.
and so, because you can, as a 501c3, build and sell houses,
Yes.
and you can sell them for whatever market value you want to.
I'm not sure about that part, but
There's no restriction on making a profit in a 501c3 company. They just can't distribute the profit to their stockholders. So that's why I'm just curious about why, the General Assembly selected that word, because it's easy to form a 501c3, and it's with the right funding, you can buy whatever you want. There's no restriction on that under the federal law. So I just wonder why they picked that term rather than something that might be more traditional. And when we think about organizations that are really out to do the good work of helping people that are down and out, so.
Just a question, Chair Edding. Why do you think a letter would be more appropriate than a resolution or vice versa?
It just seems to me that the resolution from Havre de Grace is more of a recital of, conclusions, and you can put, not to knock what they're doing, but I thought we could put more detail would seem to be more appropriate for a letter. We could do either.
So the one thing that I thought was missing, interesting from Havre de Grace, having done substantial research on the Express Powers Act, is it is omitting the fact that the state of Maryland is a Dillon's Rule state. It is an expressive powers. You don't have power unless the General Assembly gives you that power. In fact, Dillon's Rule is the exact reason why they are passing this, okay?
Yes.
So I think what might be better, along with what Mayor Edding is saying, is to have it more of a conversational basis. Maybe they'll give it a little bit more consideration rather than the sort of formalistic way that Havre de Grace did it. I'm not saying it's wrong. There's nothing wrong with what they did.
I'm happy to have them weigh in,
Yes.
but I thought that perhaps a letter might get more thought, and I'm painfully aware that we only have the powers that the state gives us.
Yes, but to point it out.
Yes.
You see my point.
Yes, yes.
And I have not received any further responses to my inquiry with the Maryland Municipal Attorneys Association. I sent you that one document.
Yes.
I hadn't received anything else. I did have an interesting conversation today, and I think I texted you, with a City of Rockville attorney who advised me that his city is 80% within 80% of his city is within 1 mile of a metro station.
Wow.
So the bulk of the city of Rockville, while it's substantially bigger and more populated and more densely populated than Bel Air, is going to have to figure this out. They have about 85% of their elementary, middle, and high schools over capacity, state-rated capacity. Now, when I was discussing this, he asked me, well, what do you think is overcrowded? And I said, well, according to my county and where my town is going, 110% state rated. They're 130.
Wow.
And
they're over.
they are over. So I said to him, how do you build anything? Like, how do you do anything? And they've come up with a creative solution in anticipating out 6-7 years their stats. And if you can get it below 1 ton in a 6-7 year time frame, you are not considered over capacity and they can build.
Wow.
So it may seem dire here. I just point
But
that out.
it's worse somewhere else.
It's worse somewhere else. It's a lot worse. So I just thought I'd point that out to you.
That is just amazing. And that was kind of my feeling about resolution versus letter. I'm thinking maybe we should pass a resolution authorizing the letter to be sent, but do it in a letter format where we can, in paragraphs, describe some of the issues that they may have not have thought of that we are concerned about.
Yeah, and the nonprofit thing is a legitimate perspective.
That is.
And I mean, the last time we did a nonprofit, it took like 3 years to get certified. I mean, IRS is not quick. It's just not. But that's our experience. It could be quicker now. So that, I think, was the thing I was thinking of when I was thinking that this is not going to
So
really.
concerning.
Yeah, it's so concerning.
7504 was the one that I thought loomed the largest for us.
I think the thing that was concerning for me was the district court, because we know that it's gone.
Correct.
And
It's on a much shorter time frame.
It's on a much shorter time frame. It is a very big piece, and there's this huge question mark hanging over across the street from my office as to what is going to happen there. And, you know, that's a big piece. It's a high density.
It is.
Was it B2? B2? B3A. So that's high density. So,
All right, well, I will do some additional work on this and send it out to everyone. Since we do have public comment listed on our agenda, sort of in error, I see Mr. Goddard here. Would you like to make a public comment, Mr. Goddard?
Yes. Good evening, Wayne Goddard, 128 North Bond. Actually, I wasn't going to make a public comment, but in response to the query about why the nonprofits, I can answer that. So there are a number of nonprofit development corporations, many of which are located in Washington, D.C., and some in Baltimore City. The way that it would work, for example, would be, let's say something were to happen with our project. It did not go through. The only thing that would be left for us to do would be to partner up with a nonprofit. We would donate the land to them, get an enormous tax write-off. We would be the developer. When you develop community-based housing like that, you can get a much larger development fee, something in the magnitude of 10 to 15% of the development cost. So it would be millions of dollars. To your point, they make an enormous amount of money. What is nice about, and the reason why they go with a nonprofit is because when you build these projects, they're financed through USDA loans or HUD loans. Those are all non-recourse loans, meaning there's no personal guarantees, there's no personal credit that's pulled. It's just simply investors who build the developers to build the project. Now, what's beneficial is because you can go and get a $4, $5, $6, $10 million grant to offset the construction costs, which will allow you to build this product. You know, let's say our project's going to cost $22 million. That project's still going to cost $22 million. In fact, it probably will cost even more than that because of the enormous development fee that the developer's going to get. But what it does is when you get that grant, it offsets the need to make the market, to make the rents higher. Like, we're pricing our product, and Hickory Flats is pricing their product, and the mall is pricing their product based upon a private development agreement, based upon what the cost to build plus a reasonable rate of return. When you allow the nonprofits to come in, they do fill that need because they allow people that don't have the capital or the credit to build these projects. Now, the rub is that they all have to be a certain way. You cannot have more than, I think it's 20% of it devoted to commercial space. So they have to be predominantly, residential, and they have to have a certain specified percentage allocated to affordable housing, and they dictate the different levels of indigent need based upon your community. So this bill is intended to compete with, or to be a workaround for communities that the governor and the state of Maryland deem are being too restrictive on development. That's why, as I said in my previous memorandum that I submitted, there was a change to the land use code where if you made a change to your comprehensive plan after January of 2023, it had to be vetted for fair housing compliance with the Department of Planning. That was sort of the predecessor of this legislation. That was why that was put into place, so that if you were...
Wow.
Well, that's never happened.
Amazing, huh?
May I finish my thought? So that's why that piece of legislation was put into place with the applicable date of 2023, so that if someone wanted to come in and try to say, hey, this nonprofit's trying to build affordable housing, it would subject it to higher scrutiny. So
Thank you, Mr. Goddard.
Thanks.
I appreciate that. All right. Moving on to our tentative agenda for our town meeting on Tuesday, February the 20th at 7 p.m. and here in Town Hall. The first thing on our agenda that day will be a presentation, fire and police recognition.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we plan on, and Commissioners, we plan on recognizing a number of Hartford County Fire Police at our next meeting for their service to the town. And what we'll do is we plan on getting them certificates of appreciation and service ribbons, and recognizing them for the training and experience that they provide in helping our officers, actually saving us a lot of money, taking their places at some of these events, doing traffic direction, crowd control, et cetera. And I think it's myself and Mr. Hopkins think that it's well overdue, and I think it'll be a good thing to have for them, and a little ceremony afterwards too. So,
Sounds great.
yes, ma'am.
All right. Anyone have any questions for the chief about that next week? No?
Chief, in
Yes, sir.
20 words or less.
Uh-huh.
What's the difference between the fire police, which seem to be volunteers, and the explorers? and the auxiliary
Well,
police?
the Explorers are kids, so we
Okay.
have several different groups to pull from, volunteer groups. We have Police Auxiliary,
Right.
which are, sometimes retirees or other people that, had an affinity or, wanted to be police at one time or something and said, hey, you know what, I'll just volunteer instead. They could have
Okay.
jobs, APG and post and that kind of thing. And they're adults. And then we have the fire police that we pull from. Now, the Explorers, they're kids between 14 and 21. And typically, we don't put them out in dangerous posts like traffic direction. You might see them helping with traffic down at like the Wine Fest and
In the parking.
in the field area, in the
Right.
parking, but not on the street. We
Okay.
typically don't do that. We save that for the fire police, the adults, and the auxiliary personnel. So,
All right, thank you.
yes. Also, again, ma'am, we'll have something prepared for you that
Great.
you can read that night. A little history of them, and
Looking forward to reading
yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And under new business, we will first have ordinance 825-24, amending the Bel Air Town Code, Chapter 10, Boards, Commissions, and Committees, Article 4, Appearance and Beautification Committee, Section 10-14. Mr. Klein, is that you?
Me or Mike?
I can kick it off.
Go ahead.
Okay. The ABC Committee, the Appearance and Beautification Committee, has not consistently met the minimum membership requirement in the code of 9 members for a few years. But let me point out that the lower membership has not, I repeat, has not adversely impacted the ABC's committee, their ability to fulfill its purpose and goals. But in order to be consistent with the code, the committee has recommended a change in the committee's membership requirements from a minimum of 9 members and a maximum of 12 members, lowering it to a minimum of 5 members and a maximum of 9 members.
Great.
And I think I could just add that the lower number, the 5 to 9, is more uniform with the other committees in town, the numbers that we have. So the committee just felt that for so long, we've not even had the minimum number of members on the committee. So let's make it so it works.
Let's make it match what we're actually doing.
Exactly right, yep.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So that would be before you for introduction, because it would be an ordinance, an actual change to the code at the next town hall meeting with a public hearing scheduled for March 18th.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Krantz or Mr. Klein?
Good with that.
They do a great job, even though there's not
Yeah.
12 of them. All right, next we have ordinance 826-24 regarding the fee in lieu of open space.
I'll get the ball rolling on that one.
All right.
So that's getting the ball rolling again on the discussion about how the town approaches open space and when and where exceptions are granted to the open space requirement. So the ordinance, as it's currently written, would incorporate the recommendation of the Planning Commission that we got back from them to change the formula to be more in line with Harford County's formula. But that would apply to the B2 zoning district. So in the B2 zoning district, the fee in lieu of open space would be an option, just as it is now. The idea is to preserve downtown Bel Air, where it's very difficult to meet that open space requirement. If there were to be a redevelopment, the idea is to keep that option there. In the rest of the town, the idea is that if there were a hardship to a project in obtaining open space, they would go to the Board of Appeals and seek a variance, just like any other exception to the code that's required. There's also a provision in there regarding agreements between the town and developers that, if recommended by the Planning Commission and accepted by the Board of Town Commissioners, there can be case-by-case agreements that allow for fees in lieu, specific off-site provisions and what's the word I'm looking for? Improvements that can be agreed upon to satisfy the open space requirement. But again, that would be a case-by-case as opposed to sort of an automatic, let's go to the Planning Commission and, draw this into the site plan from day one, which I think is something that we want to try to discourage a little more and encourage really embracing the open space requirement, because it is, the open space requirement is there for a reason, to ensure that Bel Air stays green and not concrete and asphalt. So that's the general idea. The idea is to receive it and discuss it and hear public input, and there could be amendments regarding which districts and regarding the definition of open space and all of that. I know that we just got the actual language of it just back today, so I don't expect anybody to have really drilled into it quite yet, but I wanted to put that on everybody's radar as we move into that first town hall where it'll be accepted and discussed for the first time. And Kevin and Liz have been working with you very closely, so if you want to jump in, add anything, please.
I'll address it during our closed session.
You got it.
Anyone else have anything to ask about the fee in lieu of open space? All right, in that case, next up is Resolution 1221-24, amending Resolution 1211-23, extending the use of tent permits and temporary use permits due to COVID-19 in the town of Bel Air through March the 31st, 2025.
I can,
Mr. Krantz?
sure, I can get that started.
All right.
This has been a COVID-related exemption to our current town code, so I'm just going to go through and kind of refresh everybody's memory as to where this came from. The future has kind of remained uncertain regarding public health threats resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. The Bel Air Town Code limits the use of temporary structures such as tents and related temporary uses under ordinary circumstances. The best example I can utilize is that, for example, parking lots are for parking and vehicular traffic. As a result, temporary use permits are required to have a tent or an event in a parking lot. So until the COVID-19 pandemic, temporary uses were rather infrequent and usually occurred only once a year, such as St. Patrick's Day and related tent and entertainment requests from local businesses where they would expand out into their parking lot for the St. Patrick's Day celebration, or only a few times a year. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, exemptions and suspensions to the town code had to be made to promote safety and economic recovery regarding the limited use of tents for outdoor dining. So outdoor seating at restaurants, bars, breweries, nightclubs is far safer, less likely to spread COVID-19 than indoor dining. Some establishments expanded their temporary uses beyond tents and outdoor dining to include events and related entertainment such as live bands, musicians, or music, amplified or otherwise. And in the past, some citizens have complained about outdoor music creating a disturbance and having an adverse impact in the neighborhood. So this resolution addressed that in the staff, in the context that the staff recommended and past boards have adopted these certain suspensions to the code pertaining to temporary structures and tents to facilitate outdoor seating that promote social distancing. And we would recommend that this board suspend it again until March 31st, 2025, a year from now. However, the provisions of the code that pertain to outdoor events, including entertainment, live bands, music, amplified or otherwise, shall remain in effect. And that would be what this resolution would be for. It would be continuing to allow the tents and outdoor dining for another year, and it would give yourselves as well as the town staff a chance to decide if we're going to incorporate some of this into the law, into our town code. And it'll also give us an opportunity to see what Harford County does, because I'm under the impression that they have suspended theirs as well for another year, I think through the end of this year. So they have not incorporated it into law, and I think perhaps other municipalities are still in this same type of situation where they haven't yet incorporated it into law, and this will give us some time to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Krantz. And I know that one of our considerations was that we didn't want businesses inside the town to be at a disadvantage compared to businesses outside of the town. So if the county was extending theirs, we have continued to extend ours. Although at some point, I think this is going to come to an end, and we will have to determine which parts we're going to make permanent and which parts we are not. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Krantz or comments about this resolution?
Well, if we were being consistent with, I mean, I agree with you, trying to be consistent with the county. But I think the county extended theirs through end of December 24. So would we want to do the same?
I think we've been extending it a little bit longer so that we can see what they do on the end, at the end of the year, whether they extend it again, whether they make something permanent,
Oh,
and giving
all right.
us a few months of breathing room to consider what we want to do.
It also, by having that extend to March, it doesn't stop the activity in the middle of winter where
Right.
they're using tents to.
Okay.
Be able to do their business because
Exactly.
it's a little chilly out there.
Yeah, I think, Madam Chair, I think that's a good idea. From my perspective, it was to give any impacted property owners at least a year to know, hey, you know, we're going to extend, but start to plan, give them another 12 months of notice that things may be changing, probably are going to change.
Exactly.
I don't know who this question would be directed to, fair game for anybody, but I just wanted to understand the resolution itself, that with regard to having, you know, live bands, entertainment, music amplified, so that wouldn't be allowed inside the tent without complying with the current, getting a special
Right.
permit?
You'd still have to obtain that temporary permit to have bands and entertainment.
Is that the case
That was the
now?
major problem. Yes, it is the case now.
It's the case right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so that would
All right.
remain the same. That portion of the code would remain in effect. It's just simply allowing the tent and the outdoor dining to exist in the parking lot, for example, is what we would be continuing to allow.
Was that ever suspended during the COVID?
That's what this is, yes.
Yes.
This is the resolution that's been passed.
One difference between
Yeah.
us and the county is the county actually changed their code, and they have a sunset, and it sunsets every year. And then at some point, they're gonna change it so it doesn't sunset anymore and it becomes permanent. We never changed our code. We just said, okay, if you're a business that wants to utilize outdoor dining and tents and whatnot, you do that under a temporary use, but the temporary use doesn't run out. It just goes, in effect, this would happen is there'd be a temporary use to be applied for at the end of March, and then that would last in a year. And as part of that temporary use, where the bands would be located, where the speakers would be pointed, a lot of that stuff would be addressed, and was really addressed last year, and we haven't had any complaints since then.
One thing I wanted to add was, I know we have some representatives in the audience tonight. I had a conversation in preparation for this meeting with Tim Steelper from Independent, the general manager here, who sent me a number of very compelling arguments and a number of things that Independent is doing that they'd like to keep doing, and I think are a great benefit to the town, you know, culturally and economically. So I did want to mention that, and if the representatives of Tim, if you wanted to mention anything on this particular item before we got down to parking, I wanted to give you that opportunity as well, because I got to see the great and very well crafted argumentation, but I wanted to give that opportunity to the commissioners as well, if you wanted to speak to the tents.
Happy to answer any questions. Height adjustment is good.
If you could just give your name and address for the record.
Tim Stolper, I'm the general manager of Independent Brewing, also a town resident, 435 Choice Street, for the past 24 years. So if I may, the tents for us have become a lot more than just an outdoor dining space and a space for independent brewing to obviously serve beer. We've noticed over the past few years that they've also become kind of a meeting place for a lot of local organizations to host their events, sports teams, local charities, and we've really turned the tents into a lot more than just an extension of our business. It's become kind of an extension of the community. We see a lot of, like I said, local sports teams having their year-end celebrations there because they know it's a safe outdoor space that, you know, they can have the kids run around, they're not inside in the dining area. We also had a lot of nonprofits. We had a fantastic cornhole tournament this weekend for Harford County Public Schools. that brought out probably about 500 or 600 people. So it really has become a lot more than just an extension of our business, like I said. So, and it has helped us immensely. I thank you, all the town, for your efforts and what you've done, because it really helped get us through COVID. And even though sales have been down over the past couple years, you know, the tents have definitely helped us maintain our full staffing levels. So thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and obviously Phil's here as well, so.
Anyone have any questions?
No, I have to say I agree. It's a nice addition to that facility, that other groups can use it and enjoy
Absolutely.
it.
And I will add that most of the time, those groups, we do so at no charge to them. I
That's great.
mean, it brings business into us, so it's kind of a, you know, it's kind of a great relationship that we have.
It's good. It's
okay.
good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.
This would then be before the commissioners for a vote on the 20th, and since it's a resolution, it would become effective on the 20th as well, too.
Thank you, Mr. Krantz. And next, we have Resolution 1222-24, amending Resolution 1180-22, amending the Bel Air Armory lease fee schedule, Section 6, deposits, B, security deposit, increasing the security deposit from $250 to $500.
So that's me, too. The certain chapter of code allows the board to establish fees for town services, such as the rental of our community center, the Bel Air Armory. The primary issues, well, in a little bit of retrospect, the Armory's leasing fee schedule was last amended on March 7th, 2022. The current security deposit is $250, a flat $250. And just real quickly, the main issues and the primary issue is that there's often events run over their allotted time. You know, the Armory is rented for 6 hours, for example. And rental time overages result in extra hours for staff. And then the next two secondary issues are damages to the facility, as well as extra cleaning required often after a very large event. And what we've been experiencing is the $250 security deposit really doesn't seem to be enough incentive for the event organizer or the event operator to really end their event on time or to really clean up like they're supposed to. Because for $250,
We'll take care of it for them.
yeah, we'll just walk out and leave it to the town staff to clean up and put in the extra hours. And not that has happened regularly, but it has happened. So the suggestion here is to increase the security deposit to $500 for any event where alcohol is served. Have a $500 security deposit for any event with greater than 100 participants. Have a $250 security deposit for any event with less than 100 participants and no alcohol is served. But then to also give a certain amount of latitude to the Armory manager where the amount of the security deposit may be increased or decreased to cover costs associated with the event's anticipated impact on the facility or staff. And that is the only recommended changes in this resolution for the fee schedule.
Could I ask, I'm just trying to pull it up in front of me here. How much latitude exactly are we talking? What is the sort of wiggle room that's provided? I'm looking for it in the code right now, or in the resolution.
Right now, it's a flat $250. So we're recommending, $500, except for smaller events, less than 100 participants and no alcohol, it could be $250. But then I was also going to suggest we write into the fee schedule this one sentence that the amount of the security deposit may be increased or decreased to cover costs associated with the event's anticipated impact on the facility or staff. And you can bring up a good suggestion if you wanted to put a limitation on the increase or decrease, or just we could not have that in there at all. We could just eliminate that one sentence and just stick to the 500 and the 250. It's really up to you.
I think it definitely brings up a good point. I was just curious. I certainly trust Ms. Potler's judgment. You know, no aspersions there. I was just curious if we had an idea for a framework or some maybe a rubric by which we say if these extra risk factors are present, then it will increase by 10%. I'm just spitballing here.
I struggled with the same thought because you wouldn't want somebody saying, well, how come they got 500 and I got 250? Where's the rule? So we're just trying to cover our bases, and Julia, runs a wonderful facility, and I think there's only 3 weekends left in this year that are yet to be booked. So it's filling up quickly. But there's always that thing that we can't think of. So she was asking maybe the board would give her some latitude. But I can understand striking that and just having a straight rule so we don't ever have any accusations.
Something to think about. I can't say that my mind is made up one way or the other because I think there's strong arguments on both sides of that.
Yeah.
Strong argument for it. I understand the hesitations.
And for Ms. Potler's perspective, would she have like a maximum, like $1,000 or something that, she would be comfortable with? And of course, a security deposit doesn't mean you're limited to paying that, although it would be much more difficult to extract those funds from somebody.
No, it is a refundable security deposit. If you do your job, if you leave on time and you clean up like you're supposed to according to the Armory rental contract, that check is voided and given back to you, or if you gave it in cash, that cash is given back to you. So we could write something in there like $100 or $200 above, maybe the maximum would be $750 and the minimum would be $150 or something like that. But
I would keep your minimum at $250 because things are just so expensive.
Yeah.
But I would raise the maximum if we are inclined to, if she would like to have some feeling that if it's something that sounds like it might cause more cleanup or need more attention, make it like $1,000 or $750 or whatever she feels comfortable with.
The strange thing is it could actually be the other way too. There could be an event with no food and no alcohol, but a lot of public access. It could just be completely open to the public, and there could be thousands of people that go into the facility, in and out of the facility. So when I was writing the rules, I was thinking, well, maybe we would do $250 for an event that has no alcohol and no food. But then I thought of one of the largest events we typically have there was the gun show in the past, and literally thousands of people would be in and out of the Armory. And when the weather was bad, the floor was just ruined, and we really had to spend a lot of extra time and money and have a contractor come in to restore it after that. So it's a tough call because not all the environmental conditions and the things could come into play. And I think to pass this at what she really needed to eliminate any accusations like you talk about, we should just scratch the ability to arbitrarily increase or decrease, and we could just go with the bullet items, the 500 of the security deposit, with alcohol, 500 if it's over 100 participants, and then if it's less than 100 and there's no alcohol served, it would be 250. And we'll just give it a year and see what happens.
I'd be curious what the cost was from the gun show for redoing the floors.
I think we ended up not having to seal them or anything reseal them or anything like that. It just took a lot of extra mopping and polishing.
And I don't think $500 security deposit is not out of line for other venues. That's probably still even on the low side, to tell you the truth.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
I think Rockfield is currently at 250, and they're dealing with the same concerns that we're discussing today. They're thinking of increasing theirs to 500. And it's another town-owned facility, so we would be in line with what their thoughts are too.
No, I'm going through a wedding for a daughter. It's security deposits over, it's in 4 figures.
Really? Yeah, well, then we are
For
low.
the venue, security deposit's 4 figures, so,
Well,
okay.
then we are low. Well, why don't we do this? I'll strike the last suggestion, and we'll go with the 3 recommendations, and that'll be before you for a vote. And because it does have to do with money, we'll have a public hearing about it on March 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Krantz.
Okay, thank you for your feedback.
Next, number 5, Resolution 1223-24, accepting the amended Harford County 2022 Growth Report. Mr. Small, this must be you.
Yes. The Harford County came out with their amended report, which basically looks at pupil attendance starting in the 2023 school year, the August 23. So they amend their report from back in the summer, and new numbers come forward. Those with the large change is that the Bel Air Elementary School is no longer over or at 110. The only school in town is the Homestead Wakefield Elementary School, which still operates at 115 and will be 117 actually at the after 3 years. So this is just for acceptance. Once that you accept it, then the Planning Commission must enforce that
Those are
threshold.
the numbers they'll use then.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Small? Resolution 1224-24, amending Resolution 1185-22, parking by permit only areas. Mr. Small.
Yes, I brought this before you twice before, so I don't want to waste your time, but this looks at parking by permit only on 2 streets. One is Atwood, which is changing. Right now, they have a requirement of Monday through Saturday from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., and they want to change that to 24/7, basically 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, where it's just residential parking. When I say residential, it's just resident parking there. Then the other one is Lester Way, which has some permit parking listed, and I think the desire, both myself and Mr. Klein, we just don't see the ability to, for that road to be able to take any on-street parking because it's just too narrow. It's around 18 feet wide. So what we would do is prohibit parking along there, so that means that the parking by permit would have to also be eliminated.
Any questions for Mr. Small on permit parking? No? All right, Resolution 1225-24, amending Resolution 1212-23, restrictive parking zones. Mr. Small.
And this is married to the other one. What the requirements here changed because there was some parking on Atwood that would be eliminated with the development of Raising Cane's. Also, the measurement was incorrect. It measured at 100 feet. It actually is 200 feet back from Baltimore Pike. Then on Lester Way, we would include both sides of Lester Way to be prohibited parking.
Any questions for Mr. Small on this resolution? Okay, reappointments for the Cultural Arts Commission.
We can talk about the appointments in the closed session.
Then we will have both of those, reappointments to the Economic and Community Development Commission in closed session, and staffing update, reviewing the term expiration dates of boards, committees, and commissions.
No changes since last time, so we're still,
Here
we're
we
looking
go.
at the ones that will be before you with the Cultural Arts and the Economic and Community Development Commission. As far as town staffing, we've recently posted for a police officer again, so we're actively receiving applications for a police officer. We have a part-time senior planner due to a long-term illness in our planning department. We have a part-time procurement officer, which we're still struggling to fill. We had a candidate that we had identified and they fell through, so we're still actively seeking applicants for a part-time, 16 hours a week, on-site procurement officer. Our last procurement officer, John, was here for five years, Lisa, I think, yeah, 5 years. And he was retired from public procurement sector, and he was a wonderful asset to the town and really helped straighten things out. So we're looking for another procurement professional with public sector experience who may be is only interested in 16 hours a week, perhaps an entire retired individual or someone who can fit something like that into their schedule if they have other work elsewhere.
Do we put that out on our Facebook and social media?
It is currently advertised on our Indeed page and on our website, and we can promote it on social media, yes, absolutely.
Might be a good idea, because you're looking for kind of a narrow sort of audience for that one.
I think I shared it on my LinkedIn page, and I can also share it on the town's LinkedIn page. So if any of you are on the town's LinkedIn page and you have a significant number of followers on LinkedIn, please request that you share that as well too, because that often you might see more professionals pick up on that in LinkedIn than you might on Facebook. But that's a good suggestion. We'll share it on all of them.
All right, is that it for the staffing update?
That's
And we actually do have a temporary planner now on board, or we're looking for
We
one?
do not. We're
We're
looking for one. We
Okay.
need a part-time temporary planner.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Krantz? All right, calendar. We have one. We should probably, everybody look at it and anything that you find. I think the most important thing on the calendar is going to be the upcoming budget meetings, which are extra over and above the usual scheduled work session and town hall meetings. So,
And the, Mike, the HPC is, we didn't receive any submissions, so that's canceled, and on the 22nd.
Oh, okay, February 22nd, Historic Preservation Commission. Okay, I see it. Thank you.
And this is not for a couple months, but I think Elaine Millard would kill me if I didn't mention it. For the first time of many times public on the record, Bel Air Garden Mart will be May 17th from 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. So mark your calendars, get ready. It's going to be a great event. ABC is in full bore once again, so looking forward to that event. And more information forthcoming. I had little palm cards. Nobody tell Elaine I left them in my car. But if
We'll
you'd
keep
like,
your secret.
if you'd like the palm card, I've got it for you. But May 17th will be Bel Air Garden Mart.
I think she's watching.
Sorry, Elaine.
Any other calendar items for the moment?
The budget work sessions don't start until April.
But we did all get a list and should check your calendar to make sure you can, or let Lisa know if you cannot make it, so that we're sure at least we have a quorum. Miscellaneous.
I had left at your place two pictures of,
Yes.
Of options. You don't have to tell me which one you prefer now. You can email me, or you can say top one, bottom one. It doesn't matter. But I'm trying to get an idea so that I can this will be part of the budget review, because that will be something that probably will not be able to fall within the existing budget item for this
Gotcha.
year.
I don't know. I think I'm just initial likes. I think I like the top one because you can read Bel Air, but we've got our town seal there, which I think is important. I miss the town
That's right.
seal, Lou.
Yeah, Angela loves that. I know.
Oh, right.
And it's just part of our branding to use our logo. That's our actual logo that we use.
is it
I know
really?
that the crest is, had been the logo prior and used to be what was used, but am I correct?
No, so is it top one?
I like the top one.
Okay.
It's good for photo op, so.
It is.
You know, there's a photo op, there's a picture of the DS or whatever, it's like, okay, we got Bel Air there. 'cause no one really
Right.
recognizes
And you can't really read it on the seal.
We anticipate this will be cut steel, and it'll be to the point where it's about like an inch or so off of the brick.
And just on a personal note, in terms of the photographs that we've taken of people who are getting site recognition, if we can have them here,
That
have
would be
that in the
great.
background, it'll make sense.
That'll be great. That'll be a real.
I really liked when it had the do not enter authorized
Yeah,
personnel.
I kind of thought you liked that a lot.
No. All right. Anything else under miscellaneous? And now we're down to commissioners' comments.
Yeah, so this is just something to think about and maybe direct it to town administrator. Member of the Bel Air Volunteer Fire Company expressed interest in, while the vacant buildings during the site of the new courthouse, while they sit vacant, the fire company was interested in doing ladder extension training and just different drills and different training there. And they were curious about if there was any availability to do that. They're not burning anything, and who they should talk to. So I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, it's, one would think they would have talked to me, because we're already 4 buildings down into that training, Aurora. So if you want to send me who you spoke to, I'll follow up. But we
Yeah.
already have training permissions for the homes
Okay,
across
great.
the street, training permissions for Raising Cane's. I had not approached the courthouse properties yet because they hadn't secured, they hadn't been purchased. They're still owned by the individual businesses. So, yes, I will definitely pursue that.
Yep.
Any acquired structure I see in town that they can use for training, we acquired very quickly so that we can use it for actual building training. So I will follow up on that. But thank you. I did not realize they were inquiring about those buildings yet.
You got it. Yeah, we'll talk offline.
Sure, thank you. Absolutely. It's a great idea.
Any further commissioners' comments?
Nope.
Nope. All right, in that case, do I have a motion to move into closed session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so.
Okay, I can call for the vote. This will be the vote to move into closed session. The meeting will be closed under the provisions of the Maryland Open Meetings Act, General Provisions Article 3-305B1 and 3-305B7. The topics of discussion in closed session will be limited to discuss the appointment of officials to the Cultural Arts Commission and the Economic and Community Development Commission, as well as to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice regarding fee in lieu of open space and advice related to the sale of town property. The reasons for closed session of the above topics is because the public discussion of candidates' names, qualifications, experience, background could discourage people from volunteering for public service or compromise their privacy rights. And with regards to legal advice, because public discussion of confidential information and legal strategies can compromise the attorney-client privilege and inhibit the ability of the public body to receive candid and uninhibited legal guidance. So with that, I'll call for a vote. Commissioner Rutledge?
Aye.
Commissioner Chismar?
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor?
Aye.
Commissioner Chance?
Aye.
And Chair Edding?
Aye.
The motion to go into closed session is passed. It is now 6:48, and we will move into closed session. I do not believe we will reopen into open session because there's no other items for discussion.
You are correct, Mr. Krantz.
Okay, well, with that, I will end the YouTube live stream feed here momentarily.